because people's anxiety levels are understandably higher. I've noticed with a couple of my particularly female clients who have a history of that, but like you say, it was well managed before lockdown. Triggered. Yeah, I totally appreciate feeling with that.
Yeah, I've heard exactly the same thing as well. One of my current clients has kind of reverted back a little bit because there's a whole new set of triggers, and she's kind of spending a bit more time on Instagram, and that's kind of triggering things as well. So I've had that. We've actually got Leon. Oh, dog's joining in.
What was that? Sorry, I'll just mute myself while you're talking. Sorry.
I think he was doing a better job of answering it than I was, I think. But we've actually got Leon on the app, on the trainer app, who's kind of put some good content up on that kind of stuff already, and it's actually his research and his PhD is in body image and kind of nutritional health. So he's kind of been on stage and competed in sort of physique competitions, as well as being a psychologist and now practicing as a psychologist. So he's got like a really unique kind of blend of skills. So he's kind of probably a good person to go to as well, who we've got like in-house and available on the app. If you want to kind of ask questions to him or ping him a message, we've got specifics.
Is he someone I could refer her directly to? Because she was asking me if there was anyone I would recommend for her to kind of reach out to specifically about that.
Yeah, certainly, and he would also know who to speak to if he decided that he needed to refer on as well. So he's definitely a good person to go and speak to. Dan, I know you've also referred to someone specifically for nutrition stuff as well, haven't you?
Yeah. You probably know there's a girl called Rhiannon Lambert, who is a nutritionist. She works in Harley Street, and she specialises in disordered eating. So she's someone I have a kind of connection with. So I would often, when we have this situation at work, that's who I would suggest referring to. But Leon may also be a good channel as well. But my only comment to this was going to be just making sure that you kind of feel like you've got the channels available to you of where to direct her for help. Because like you say, it's not kind of within your remit to be trying to deal with it, but it's a good job. You've done a good job of kind of identifying it and making her feel comfortable enough to go and actually seek help from the right person now. But do let me know if you want me to give you that contact, and I will.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing if I could get you to ping that over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
So that's kind of one side of things with people. Yeah, I was reading a little about that as well. And it's kind of a lot of time these disordered eating behaviours to do with control, and it's like when you've got one area of life where suddenly control has been completely taken away, and we're all in this lockdown situation, these other things can kind of crop up. What about in terms of people potentially concerned about eating too much, or like snacking's been a big thing? That seems to be the one that's come out of this, where people feel very out of control of the amount they're snacking. Has anyone kind of had that with clients, or how?
So I think particularly if clients have partners or have family at home that maybe not on a similar fitness journey to them, that it's easier to kind of eat what they eat and kind of fall into that sort of pattern. Because, you know, if people are going to work and if people are going to work and they're either preparing their food or they're getting their own food out, they've seemed to, you know, they may have a bit more immediate control over what they're eating. But if they are at home and they do live with partners who aren't on that same bandwagon with them, then I think that could potentially cause some difficulty.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about this the other day, and it's certainly something that I've seen with some of my clients, my online clients, who are getting stressed out about the amount they feel like they're snacking now, and they feel like they're kind of doing a lot wrong. Something I spoke to the guys about was, if you try and reframe that a bit, because we spoke about some of the positives that have come out of this. Like, again, I see all the nutrition consultations at SIX3NINE before they train with their trainers. So I come into contact with a lot of people to talk about nutrition, and everyone knows, all the guys that I work with know, that 9 times out of 10, the problem is that people are having too much restaurant food and too much alcohol. And those are two things that more or less could be reduced in this period of time. There's far less social pressure to be out drinking. They're not having client lunches and going out and restaurant food at the weekend and things. So if people have stopped doing that, there is this big void in their weekly calorie intake where they're not having this sort of day where it's 3,000 calories plus, where they've been out for a big binge on the weekend. So the fact that we are snacking a bit more than we would normally is to be expected. Our body's very good at getting what it needs and maintaining our weight. So there's now this big void of energy and they're finding it elsewhere. So it doesn't mean that unlimited amounts of snacking needs to go on, and there are strategies we can do, but it's sometimes reframing that to the client. Like, it's not that you're just a pig who's binging out on snacks. There's the reason why that you are going for more snacks now, because elsewhere in your diet is being compensated for. So kind of to lead into a second thing with that is, a lot of the time when the mentality is based around failure, someone's like, oh no, I've had some biscuits in the afternoon, now I've like messed it all up, I'm going to have more biscuits, or now I'm going to order a takeaway and it's all off track. That's what we're trying to avoid happening. So my advice to a lot of my clients is just take it like as certain that you're going to snack today. You're definitely going to snack. Decide what those snacks are going to be. Make a nice window for them in the afternoon where it's like, I'm going to have my crisps, my chocolate, whatever it is, and view that as part of your overall plan, where doing that is helping you stick to everything else and keep some moderation. And by having that biscuit in the afternoon doesn't mean you failed and you need to respond by binging and binging and binging. It seems to be working in a better way to feel like you can do that, but you're not a bad person and you don't have to fall completely off the wagon.
Quite a few of my clients have had found it to be that they've lost weight from not being in their office, because a few of mine have unlimited snack drawers, so they can just go and help themselves to whatever they want, and it's just like walls of, like, you can get just anything. I know in the Facebook office, they just, in every level, they have a pick and mix wall. And yeah, because there's like companies that have that, just like at any time you can go. So they found it, they've actually lost weight from not having that access. And then it's also just having a bit more time to prepare your own snacks. So another one of mine was doing like roasted chickpeas and things like that. So she's still snacking, but she has a bit more time to prepare like ones that are a bit healthier. So I've lost weight again.
Yeah, I've kind of chatted to a couple of my clients in terms of like why they might be snacking. So like, because snacking is not inherently kind of an issue, right? Depending on the type of food and the reason you go into it for. So like, if you go in for an 11 o'clock snack because you're trying to get a certain amount of protein in your diet and it's trying to stimulate, muscle protein synthesis or whatever, then we'd sort of champion that and say that's a great, what a great snack, because you're staying on task. Whereas if somebody is kind of mindlessly just kind of eating out of boredom or trying to solve sort of, the stress that they've got going on, or the anxiety by just sort of eating and entertaining themselves by doing that, then we'd say, oh, that's not a good thing. So I've talked to my clients about just trying to create an environment. If they know that the environment at work or outside of the home is going to be stressful, and that they're going to try and use foods to kind of almost medicate for that stress, rather than trying to solve that issue where there's loads of stuff outside of their control, it's like, can you actually control the internal environment so that snacking is no longer an issue? So actually looking at substituting foods in for foods that aren't going to be that detrimental, like you say, like creating snacks themselves, that kind of stuff, or including it as a part of the plan, like Dan said. So I just talked about it in terms of environments. Like, one is really easy to control and one is much more difficult. So if everybody's having to shop online or go for their weekly shop, like these are a bunch of snacks that you can go and get that are lighter in calories or higher in protein or whatever, and then they're kind of going to the shops armed with that sort of shopping list. And that's what I've found worked pretty well, because then it's an easier problem for me and the client to solve than the snacking or the grazing is. So I've kind of gone down that route. It's worked pretty effectively.
How's everyone found their own snacking and grazing? I've been snacking.
I've eaten quite a bit more meat than I eat in London, that's for sure.
Is that just
my family eat? They just eat more meat, like it. So they're kind of doing lots of the cooking, lots of the shopping. So I'm kind of just following whatever is there,
I think. Yeah, I think with myself, but also another thing that relates to clients is where a lot of it comes from is that everyone's structure's completely gone. So you'll find yourself, it's like, when is breakfast? You know, it's not like you have to eat because then you're commuting into work and you need to eat at a certain time. It's like you might get up, go straight on the laptop, and then be, I'll eat a bit later. And then you're having breakfast at like 11:30, and then it's like, well, what time's lunchtime? And then like, so when that happens, then when you find yourself kind of opening the cupboard or the fridge and having like a slice of cheese just at sort of 11:30, or like, just, there's no structure. So you could snack, you can have a packet of crisps at any time throughout the day. So I think what I've spoke to a few of my guys about is trying to, as much as possible, replicate that structure you might have at work. So do have your breakfast before you then go and do your first Zoom meeting or whatever. If you're going to have your exercise session that day, like, try and put it maybe like just after lunch. So it's like, I'm going to have my lunch and then I'm going to go do my walk, and then I've got a little time in the afternoon for a snack, then have dinner. Like, actually structure it so you don't feel like you're just floating through the day eating stuff kind of constantly.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'd second that, because I found that if I'm structuring my day, then I'm much less inclined to snack. So I've gone for like 4 slightly larger meals and pretty much no snacks. And I find that roughly through the day keeps me full, and then I don't really feel the need to snack that much. But that's a totally different routine to if I was going to be doing loads of sessions every day on like a full normal working day.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because it's actually something I was talking about the other day, which is almost the opposite of what I was just saying, which is there's a lot of these podcasts about mental health at the minute where it's trying to help people how do you mirror the exact routine you have at work. So I'll go for a 10-minute walk before the day to mimic your commute, and then you come in. And it's like, maybe, but I think that assumes that the routine you had originally was particularly good, or a particularly good way of being, that you have to do like an hour's commute on a horrible train, and then you get in, then you work and you have lunch. Well, I think, like you said there, you've actually come up with a different routine that's working for you under these circumstances. And it might be the opposite of what I was saying, that for some people, this is an opportunity to think about doing things a bit differently that suit this situation a bit better. But like, the big take home for me with all of it is that this really is an opportunity to do almost everything better. You have way more time to cook at home for yourself. Like, you probably save 2 hours in a day of not having to commute. So you've got more option for home cooking. You've now been told by the government to do an hour's exercise every day. Doing an hour's walking or exercising is more than most people get in, peacetime kind of thing. Less social drinking, less restaurant food, all that kind of stuff. But you can also go the other way with it, which is that ends up being takeaways every night, or the attitude of, the gyms are shut, so I can't go to the gym, or the snacks. But you have to buy the snacks yourself, right? You got to go queue up and buy the snacks. So I think it's just about talking to the client about the right mindset to apply to it, and viewing it as an opportunity rather than something that's been thrust upon us that we have to try and sort of deal with.
Yeah, I think I've found that my clients who are maybe closer towards where they want to be with their nutrition have probably seen the opportunities and sort of taken advantage of what you were talking about there, Dan, and sort of saying like, I can tweak a few things here and get it better than it was before. Whereas I've had a couple of my clients who are further away from their goals with regards to nutrition and weight loss, who've actually gone, well, all the external motivation that was coming in from going to the office and seeing people and thinking, what do they think I look like? They're looking at me, they're thinking I'm overweight. All that's been removed, and I'm spending most of my day in loungewear, knowing that nobody's going to see me. It's like this kind of mental break. It's almost like the handbrakes come off almost, and they've gone, thank God I don't have that, because they're not internally motivated, because they haven't actually got, that's not where it comes from yet. Do you know what I mean? It may be further down the line. I was having a good chat with Leon about the kind of how the stages of kind of motivation do move towards intrinsic and kind of value-based, but start with that kind of more external motivation. I think that's something that I've kind of had a really long chat with a couple of my clients about. It's just that, look, we have to get back some sense if external motivation is the factor at the moment, regardless of where we want to end up, we need to create some of that, just so that you don't sort of come out of the other end of this kind of in a worse position than you were when you went in. And then you're going to ultimately have to go back to work and face those things all over again. So it's kind of those avoidance strategies almost like crept in, I think. I don't know if anyone else has come across that kind of.
Yeah, I had a client that she only had 2 sessions with me before the lockdown started. and she's just decided to completely put her membership on pause, and because her motivation for starting the gym was for her wedding, and now that's been cancelled. So it's the same thing. It's like now that was her main reason for coming in, and I guess it's quite hard if that's your driving force into why you're putting in all this effort, why you join up the gym and all this, and then now that's then taken away from you. And I guess that's like the same. Quite a lot of people come in because they're going on holiday, they want to look a certain way, and it's all those driving factors. So when they're not there anymore, I guess it would change people's perspective on exercise and how much they put into it.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of almost, with that particular client of mine, it kind of set us back a few months, kind of where we were. We'd made some good progress, and now I feel like it sort of shot us back, unfortunately. So, and I couldn't really catch it in time. And now we've had a couple of really good chats, which is, I feel like, is kind of getting us on the right road again. But it's tricky because not every client has reacted the same to this. So I think it's sort of, it's changed the way I'm coaching nutrition with a few people, despite them being the same person, because the context has changed so much.
Yeah, I think that's very true, mate. I think it's very interesting. I could kind of relate to that a little myself. I think like when your training drops off because you get in that kind of mindset of like, yeah, I'm not even really leaving my house at the minute, so what does it matter? Yeah, it's interesting. Guys, I'm gonna have to shoot off because I've got a chat, Kerry, with your client now, Anna. So that'll be nice. I will hopefully see some of you guys next week. Nice to meet you, Rachel, and good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
See you then.
Ed, lovely day. What are you doing with your clients?
Just kind of giving some things to do. No one seems to be struggling too much with that idea. Probably because they all have massive houses in the country, more activity than they were doing before. So plenty of them are getting lots of steps in. A few of them lost quite a bit of weight. Trying to not really talk about things that they don't feel they're doing that well, because obviously there's lots of negativity going on. So to keep it towards conversations about the bike rides they're enjoying or their step count that they're proud of, and little things that have been sort of proactive towards their weight loss goals.
How do you kind of show them that progress with steps and things like that? Do you keep email, or do you just kind of chat about it in sessions, or do you have it kind of written down somewhere?
I found a good table with distances between cities of the world.
That's so good.
And then as they've hit certain step targets, I've just equated it to a sort of average distance, and then said, "Oh, look, James, you've walked across the country of wherever, or from Liverpool to such and such, an equivalent distance that makes it a bit more meaningful rather than just 74,000."
I'm going to steal that, Ed. So I've got a table where I just get my clients to fill out their steps, but I might take that from you, claim that for my own.
Good. I got a similar one. So I calculate for a couple of my clients, calculate total volume load for their session. So reps times sets times weight, etc. And I converted it into the number of baby rhinos they'd lifted, and then tell them how many per session, how many baby rhinos they lifted. And now they've seemed to have really latched onto the idea that they need to lift more baby rhinos. I don't know. It seems to have worked.
I wonder if you could do the same with kind of calories and kind of how much you're eating.
How many baby rhinos have you eaten?
You've eaten the equivalent of an elephant in the last 3 weeks, something like that.
I don't know if that would be a positive or negative thing, mate.
How many baby?
The way, depending on their goals. So you could have it that they obviously want to aim to eat more if they're trying to gain weight or muscle, and they need to eat less if they want to lose weight. So you could spin it either way.
Yeah, less. You've eaten an ocelot less of calories this week. Maybe don't
that's
go
a
with an
great.
elephant, mate.
We could find out the kind of average consumption of each animal and say, like, today you're going to eat like a sparrow, tomorrow like a chicken, and by the third day we're going to really bump it. We're going to give you a boost of carbohydrates and get you to eat like an ostrich or something like that.
I like it.
I mean, people are going to be getting bored. Like, we're a few weeks into this. I'd imagine some people need a bit of mixing up of their routine or something to keep them entertained. It could be a useful strategy. We should trademark it.
Just don't give anyone any bat soup, because I think it's a bit early for jokes, to be honest.
Oh. Has everyone done baking themselves?
I made a chocolate cake the other day.
Ed, I've seen you've been making some sweet treats.
I've been cooking 2 meals a day. Every meal is homemade.
Very nice. I like it. I made ramen the other night. That was good.
Yeah.
We've had a few barbecues.
How was it?
Few barbecues, just a few.
Just a few.
Has anyone kind of used or got any clients using those kind of food delivery? You know, like the vegetable and salad delivery companies, like HelloFresh and things like that, deliver like the amount of ingredients you need to then cook, and they give you some recipes and stuff.
Yeah, I think any of my clients, the demographic that I have is common. So, oh, you guys have just gone blank. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can see you.
Anyone that was doing that, the first week or two of lockdown, there seemed to be an obvious surge with everything. So I think a lot of them didn't quite get what they wanted or didn't get it at all. But now that it's settled down more, they've all been having that as normal. And I think they found that really useful, actually going back to the snacking point. If they have that, then again, it's something that's planned in the day and it probably inclines them less to snack or pick at things. So I found that to be quite useful, but it's just mostly everyone that's carried on with it as they normally do.
Yeah, I found it useful. Like, a couple of my clients have used it, and I think just like planning meal times and cooking more then gives them like, it's like, oh, why would I have a snack now when I know in half an hour I'm going to be cooking this for lunch and that kind of stuff, rather than getting to lunch and going, what should I have? I think that's definitely helped. And it's also mixed it up as well, because people get in habits of, oh, I buy this every, time from Pret or whatever, and then I'll always get a croissant or something. And now, of course, they're out of that habit, so they've kind of gone, oh, I'll change that for something else. I've also kind of just putting together almost like a comparison article for one of my clients. So like comparing different types of foods and like substituting foods in for lighter versions. So particularly with like lighter dairy versions, like butters and cheeses and milks and stuff like that, and yogurts, just trying to bring the calories down but not change this diet too much. So go for like fat-free yogurts and kind of stuff. But actually putting an article together that's specific for him, and then kind of sending that over to him via our kind of members app. And I think that kind of stuff can be useful as well. I don't know if do you guys send out any kind of resources to clients? Because sometimes I feel like it's not appropriate. Like, I think it'd be weird if I sent it out to some of my clients, but others I think quite receptive.
Yeah, a bit like you said, I'll write something with one or a few clients in mind, and then I'll send it to them and anyone else that I feel like it's relevant to. But I rarely send the same thing to everyone, because like you said, it's not always appropriate. So I'll write one article or something and then send it to who I think might be most relevant.
Yeah, and I find that stuff is good for diet maintenance, as well as, like if I'm going for weight loss, I might use that as a strategy with substitutions, but I'm much more likely to use something that takes out a few more calories than that, and is a bit more like, the rules are a bit clearer on, like, maybe even kind of using like some of the more traditional diets that people have actually heard of, so they kind of know what those clear rules are. I find that you get a little bit more buy-in with that, whereas just saying swap this food for that food and stuff, because it's a little bit more of a lifestyle type thing, I think I get less adherence to that. Whereas actually when someone has lost some weight, that's a much easier way of then keeping that off. I don't know what you guys find.
I'm doing a lot of just oh, sorry, go on.
No, sorry, you go. Mine was just about baking cakes.
Talk to me.
All I was going to say is that I've done quite a lot of baking recently, and I know that a lot of my clients have. We're like probably a little bit more in the country, and people tend to have like maybe a little bit of land where they've grown some veg and they want to cook with that or something like that. So I've been substituting like honey for refined sugar, or even trying to reduce sugar by swapping fruit in things, oat flour instead of flour, because there's not even any flour on the shelves anyway. Little things like that. And then I think people have really appreciated me sending them little recipes or like tweaks on recipes that they could do with their kids. And if they're going to make something, then I want it to be the healthiest version that they can do.
I like that. I've wanted to bake more, but there is no flour anywhere. So I'm trying to find a few more recipes that you don't need flour for.
Yeah, I think recipe sharing is quite good, because you get to, it's a nice way of just opening up the conversation around food clients as well. So if some of them are in maybe a bit of a bad space, or they feel like they're eating too much, then like sharing a few healthy recipes can be a nice nudge towards that without having to sort of be quite confrontational in the way that you broach the subject.
Yeah, I've done that. I've just, like, if I've made something that's quite good, I'll send it to some of my clients. I've got this book, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it, it's called The Book of Nom, I think it's called, and it's, yeah, a lot of the recipes.
Pinch of Nom.
A pinch of Nom, that's it, not Book of Nom. Yeah, and it's all the recipes are around 500 calories, which is, like, for a few of my clients that, where their goal has been weight loss, that's the kind of like average target that I'd get them to aim for their dinners. And some of them are so good, so I've just like sent them pictures of that, but if I've made a good one from that, or from any of the BBC, their good food under 500, that's fine.
And that's what my sister uses for her recipes, and she was into a bit of a routine. She used to shop online like every week, and she would pick 4 meals and she'd write all the ingredients down and buy it every week. Since this, she's not actually been able to get, we've not been able to get like an online slot, so it's kind of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit, where you're having to get what you can, not get the base. We've not been able to pick up all the things for specific recipes. So I guess, has anyone had any issues with getting like basic ingredients for the meals in a recipe book?
Yeah, I think a lot of I've spoken to have struggled with getting hold of veg and getting hold of kind of fresh produce, getting holds of things, you know, ordering things that are more carbohydrate based or dried out or canned or something, been pretty easy. But the veg, the fresh fruit and veg has been difficult, particularly some of the older ones who aren't actually, or a little bit too kind of frail to go out and expose themselves to the kind of shopping centres. They're struggling in particular with that. Yeah, that's something I found too.
The BBC Good Food Guide has a section where you can type in the ingredients that you do have, and it will come up with some recipes that use those ingredients. It's quite a nice tool.
Is that an app or is it on the website?
It's on their website.
What website is it at?
The BBC Good Food, there's a section where you can just type in the ingredients that you have, and it sort of runs it through its search engine and gives recipes that contain those ingredients. There might be other stuff in them, so it's not like perfect, but it's quite handy.
That was like
reverse engineering from what you do have, rather than thinking about what you can't make because of lack of ingredients.
There was a good meme where it said it was like Ready Steady Cook, where you just had to like cook whatever you could find in the supermarket. And it was like the most random
I've
stuff.
had an Ocado delivery every week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
They sent me a link just saying, oh, like you book with us every week anyway. So like here's a separate booking link on the website to book a slot.
That's so
I've got
good.
flour, I've got eggs, I've got fresh veg.
There was only really 1 week that I found it was so bad, and that was like when we first moved down. We're going for a shop in Sainsbury's, and the only thing that was left in the fruit and veg section were pears. There was absolutely nothing else. I was like, okay, great. Like, yeah, shelves were very bare. Guys, we've got less than a minute left.
I need to head off to prep for my class. Anyone's welcome to join. It's a stretch class at 6 o'clock, so feel free to jump on in. But yeah, thank you so much. It's nice to check in with everyone.
Rachel, lovely to meet you. I've met you already, Katrina. And then Becca, maybe next time you'll be great to chat. But
yeah, really
we'll do next
you.
Sunday.
Cheers, guys.
Amazing. Thanks. Have
Bye.
a nice week.
Have a fun evening.